In July, there was quite a bit of attention on the announced immigration and customs enforcement raids in certain cities across the country. The Trump administration said they were focusing on 2,000 illegal immigrants who had received final deportation orders, but public outcry followed the announcement of the ICE raids. Carolee McGrath was joined in the New England Public Media radio studios at WGBY by Emily Rodriguez, a community organizer with the Pioneer Valley Project, to get her take.
So as an organizer for Pioneer Valley Project, and we are a community organization that has faith-based community groups like churches, labor unions. We have other community groups from the community who are part of our membership. So my role as the organizer, I do a lot of work with the immigrant community. One of our members has a big community of Guatemalan individuals, which I do a lot of trainings with them. My trainings are Know Your Rights, family preparedness, making sure that our family know what's going on in our community, and so on.
And so when the news broke about the ICE raids across the country, you know, what kind of reaction were you getting?
So our community was afraid, was scared to even go out, take their kids to school, go to work. So they were calling us and what should I do? Should I just stay home? Should I go? And as we know, what the president was saying, that these were people who have previous deportation order, but at the same time, they were going to do a lot of collateral arrest, meaning that even if that person was under the radar and ICE didn't know about a person and they show up to a house looking for someone and they find a person who's also undocumented, it was going to be deported.
I know a big focus that the president had mentioned was that this was really kind of announced because Congress has not taken up this very, very big issue of illegal immigration in the country. And as you had mentioned, the focus was on people who had a deportation order from a federal judge. So some people watching might say, shouldn't we follow the law? Shouldn't that 2,000, you know, those are the people that they were looking for, 2,000 or so, shouldn't they, because they had been asked to leave by a federal court, shouldn't they leave the country?
A lot of those people do not have a place to go back. A lot of those people are running from violence, poverty, running for other issues in their country, so they had no other place to go.
But those people in particular that he was, or they were talking about going after, had criminal history. So clearly, I think people would say, okay, we have to deal with this in some sort of a manner.
A lot of those people do not have a criminal history. That's what he claims, but that's not true. Some people had a deportation order because they had some connection to ICE, and at a certain point, they've been asked to go back to be, you know, their time is in here, is done. So, but that doesn't mean that they have a criminal history. Most of the people that are coming here are pretty much hard worker people who are running from different issues in their country, but they're not criminals.
How do you deal with this? It's such a big problem. I mean, as you mentioned, you deal with, you know, moms and dads, people who have, you know, little kids. They want a better life, you know, for their families, which I think everybody can agree with is really an American ideal and something that people want to support. You know, but people have a problem with, you know, people not being here legally, documented, however you want to say it. How do you deal with that as a big issue as you're trying to help people feed their kids, you know, get money, get a job? How do you deal with all that?
So we don't help them get jobs. They somehow get their job, but I'll say that a lot of people that are here has no other way to come here. They're risking their life just to find a better future for their kids. They don't want their kids to suffer the same life that they have. They start working at 8 and 7-year-old. So these are people that are looking for a better life, and I believe that we all deserve it. Why are these people less deserving than others? We all immigrants in this country. We all come here looking for a better life. So they don't have any other way to come. They're risking their life, their kids' life, to cross the border and come here. Okay. And it's because they had no other choice.
So you talked a little bit about you work with different groups, faith-based groups as well. You know, what's the reaction from the groups that you have been working with as far as the work that you do?
I will say they're grateful for having somebody like me, that I'm a U.S. citizen, trying to help them. They are trying to get their documents. they're trying to go to different lawyers and people that can help in the community, but unfortunately there's nothing that can be done in certain cases. They're spending thousands in legal procedures that they know they will never get their legal status in this country.
So when you look at ICE, I know that ICE has been a very controversial, really talking point for a lot of people when you're talking about immigration. What is your opinion of ICE?
I mean, they're doing the job and they're doing what they've been told. They just, I guess, most people, there's a lot of people undocumented in this country. A lot of people who are from different countries, people who overstay their visa, people from the Caribbean who are here, people from a lot of Irish people who are undocumented, which they don't get profiled because they're white. But these brown people or people of color are the first ones to be profiled just for their skin color. And we assume that everyone that is here illegally is either Mexican or Central America, but there's a lot of people from many different countries here illegally.
A lot of people would say, too, though, that ICE was founded after 9/11 because there was such an issue of federal law enforcement and local law enforcement not sharing information. And there was a concern about people overstaying their visa. So it really came after a time in our country where we were looking at security weaknesses. How do you respond to that?
That's a difficult question. I would say that it's okay to make sure that our country is safe, but as we can see, people who are coming to this country are not harming this country. They're actually doing hard work, working in fields that we do not want to work. They are actually not criminals, and they're no threat to this country. We need them for the economy.
What other measures are you working towards to help people that you come across? I know that there's a bill in particular that would deal with granting licenses to people in that situation.
So we are part of the coalition who is working on passing driver's license to anyone in our state, regardless of their status, which I think is awesome because they're already driving in our streets. They're already taking their kids to school. They need to drive their kids to the hospital. So I believe that doing that, our economy is going to be better. I mean, they're going to pay for a driver's license. They're going to pay for insurance. They're going to pay. We are safer if they're like they have to go to a test. They had to do the things that we all do to be able to make sure that we can drive in our street. But also in January, we also worked on passing legislation here in the state, in Springfield, which will say that every city department, we work with our community, our residents, regardless of their status, meaning police, housing, and education departments. So they all will work with our community without asking their status and asking, or because a lot of people live in houses which are living under landlords that are not taking care of the property. So these people are afraid even to call housing. So we make sure that they are safe, that they're getting treated just like any other person in our community, and that they're not afraid to report any issue.
Have you heard from police that works, though?
It's in process. The police is actually being trained because we want to make sure they're trained on how to address this issue. And so they know that this is part of a process, so they're going slowly. So, but I know the police is in favor of it.